The Minnesota Vikings thought they were just adding a few more faces to their cheer squad, but the moment they introduced two male cheerleaders, the internet exploded. Overnight, what should have been a simple roster update turned into one of the most heated debates in football culture, and for decades, NFL cheerleaders have been seen as part of the spectacle, the uniforms, the high energy routines, and the tradition of women leading the sidelines. But when the Vikings shared a video on social media showcasing Blah One Chic and Louis Kahn dancing in purple and gold, the reaction was instant. Some fans cheered, excited to see the game evolving. Others, they were furious. The comments poured in. "This is embarrassing. I just lost all respect for the Vikings." Words meant to sting, to belittle, to remind these athletes that for some people, their presence was too different. But here's the twist. This wasn't the first time male cheerleaders had shown up in the NFL, and it definitely won't be the last. Still, the Vikings found themselves at the center of a cultural storm, where a simple question took over the headlines: do male cheerleaders belong in the NFL? Because beneath the noise of social media lies a much bigger story. One that isn't just about dancing on the sidelines, it's about tradition, identity, and who gets to decide what football culture really looks like. And what happened next only pushed that debate even further. When the Vikings dropped their social media video featuring Blah One Chic and Louis Kahn in full uniform, the clip was supposed to highlight excitement for the upcoming season. Instead, it lit a fuse. The footage showed two men executing the same sharp athletic choreography as their female teammates, all in sync, all bringing energy. But for some fans, it was too much. The comments filled up faster than the team could refresh. How embarrassing. This is the end of the Vikings. I've lost all respect. These weren't just casual criticisms, or they were attacks, meant to reduce years of training and passion into a punchline. What many of those critics didn't realize, though, is that both Blah One and Lewis aren't random additions. Each has an impressive dance background, polished through years of practice and competition. They weren't handed uniforms, they fought for those spots through the same grueling auditions as everyone else. The Vikings organization wasted no time standing behind them. In an official statement, the team reminded fans that male cheerleaders had actually been part of the Vikings in earlier decades and are long associated with both collegiate and professional cheerleading. Their message was clear: we support all our cheerleaders and are proud of the role they play as ambassadors of the organization. Meanwhile, Louis Kahn himself didn't back down either. Posting on Instagram, he shared a photo in his Vikings gear with a caption that read, "Wait, did someone say our name?" A subtle jab, but a powerful one, signaling that this wasn't just about surviving the noise, it was about owning it. Still, as the backlash swirled, the spotlight grew hotter, and that's when other teams decided to step into the conversation. The storm surrounding the Vikings didn't go unnoticed. In fact, just hours after the backlash began, voices of support started coming in. Not from fans, but from fellow cheerleaders in the league who knew exactly what Blah One Chic and Louis Kahn were going through. Speaking with Good Morning America, three members of the Philadelphia Eagles cheer squad, Alex, Dalton, and James, shared their message directly to the Vikings newcomers. And it wasn't just encouragement, it was solidarity. "We know what it feels like when somebody doesn't support you for simply doing something you enjoy," one said. Their words cut through the noise of social media, highlighting something most critics overlook. Behind the uniforms are real people who simply love to dance. For the Eagles cheerleaders, having male teammates had created a bond, a safety net, and a sense of belonging in a space that hadn't always been welcoming. Their advice? Keep pushing, keep dancing. Remember that you earned your place. As Dalton put it, "You were selected through this rigorous process and you deserve it. Tune the noise out, because in the end, it's really only you and yourself, and you have to make yourself happy." It was a reminder that the hate, no matter how loud, doesn't erase the hard work. It doesn't erase the talent. And it doesn't erase the reality that these cheerleaders are athletes, performers, and professionals who earned every second of their spot on the sidelines. The Eagles' show of support transformed the story. It wasn't just the Vikings against the critics anymore, and by some way, it was about a community standing together, showing the league and its fans that change was already underway. But this wasn't just about solidarity. The rise of male cheerleaders across the NFL had been building for years, and the Vikings moment was just the latest chapter in a much bigger shift. To many fans, the sight of male cheerleaders in the NFL feels brand new, like the Vikings were suddenly rewriting the rules. But the truth is, this story started years ago. Back in 2018, the Los Angeles Rams made headlines by introducing Quentin Perrone and Napoleon Ginnies as the league's very first male cheerleaders. The announcement shocked football traditionalists, but their debut was a turning point. These weren't gimmicks. They were trained dancers, athletes who could match the energy, flexibility, and stamina of anyone else on the squad. And when they hit the field, they proved it. That same year, the New Orleans Saints followed suit, adding their own male cheerleaders. Suddenly, what had been unthinkable became a trend, and slowly the rest of the league started to catch on. Within a few seasons, more and more teams began opening their auditions to men. Today, nearly one-third of all NFL cheer squads include male performers, from the Panthers to the Patriots. For the players themselves, it's not just about breaking stereotypes, it's about representation. As one cheerleader explained in an interview, "You never know when there's a young boy in the stands who also loves to dance. If he sees us, he knows it's possible." And beyond the cultural statement, male cheerleaders bring a different dynamic to the field. Their strength allows for new stunts, higher lifts, and routines that mix traditional precision with gymnastic intensity. In other words, they're not replacing tradition, they're expanding it. The Vikings' decision wasn't made in a vacuum. It's part of a much larger movement across professional sports, challenging the idea that certain roles are locked in by gender. Still, while progress has been undeniable, the road hasn't been free of obstacles. Because even as more teams embraced the change, the backlash never fully disappeared. For every nasty comment flooding the Vikings' social media, there were just as many voices cheering them on. Many fans praised the organization for standing firm, saying the new additions brought fresh energy and athleticism to the sidelines. Parents shared stories of their own kids who loved to dance, thanking the team for showing them that boys had a place in spaces that had long been gate-kept. The Philadelphia Eagles cheerleaders weren't wrong. Most of the real-life feedback these men get isn't negative at all. Inside stadiums, the crowd isn't booing them off the field. They're clapping, cheering, and feeding off the high-octane routines. To the average fan in the stands, it doesn't matter who's flipping, dancing, or stunting. What matters is that the energy is contagious. But online? That's where the battle rages. On Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, critics amplify their disapproval to a deafening level. Hateful jokes, mockery, and dismissive takes become part of the trend cycle, spreading far faster than any positive comment. And for athletes who are simply doing what they love, that noise can feel overwhelming. The Vikings, however, didn't back down. In a statement, they doubled down on their support. Every member of the Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders program has an impressive dance background and went through the same rigorous audition process. Translation: these aren't mascots, they aren't novelties, they are professionals who earned their place like anyone else. The irony? NFL cheerleaders aren't in it for the paycheck, they're not unionized, and most are part-time employees. They do it because they love performing, love their team, and love the rush of being on the field. Male or female, it's passion that drives them, and that's what the loudest critics fail to see. Still, as the Vikings held their ground, one question hung in the air. Would this moment silence the critics, or was the clash between tradition and progress just heating up? At its core, this wasn't just about two men joining a cheer squad. It was about how deeply tradition runs in the NFL, and how fiercely people react when that tradition is challenged. The Vikings could have bowed to the noise, stayed quiet, or distanced themselves from the controversy. Instead, they doubled down, standing behind their cheerleaders with pride. And in doing so, they exposed something bigger than football: the way progress collides head-on with outdated expectations. Because here's the truth: male cheerleaders aren't ruining the game. They aren't distracting from touchdowns or stealing the spotlight from players. They're adding to the spectacle, energizing fans, and inspiring kids who never thought they'd see someone like them on that stage. In a league that constantly talks about toughness, grit, and resilience, these men are living proof that courage doesn't always look like what fans expect. But then there's the other side, the fans who can't accept it, who rush to social media to drag people down for simply doing what they love. And that begs the question, what does it really mean to be a true fan? Is it about clinging to a version of the sport that only exists in memory? Or is it about embracing the energy that keeps the game alive? One day, the controversy around male cheerleaders may fade, the way most cultural debates eventually do. Until then, every high kick, every backflip, and every routine is more than a performance. It's a statement that says, we belong here, we've earned this, and no amount of hate will change that. Nah. So the next time the Vikings take the field and the cameras cut to their cheerleaders, ask yourself, are you watching to tear someone down, or are you ready to let the game evolve? Because, like it or not, the NFL is already moving forward.